You ever done something and people told you in your life before you were going to do it, this is a bad idea, and then you went ahead and did it, and you came to quickly realize this is a bad idea? That's exactly what's going on here. We are back with another video, and we're going to do something a little different today. Instead of behind the podium speaking to the masses, we're going to bring this message directly to you and help us out. Comment below what you like better. Do you like the speaking to a crowd and seeing a part of that? Or do you like us bringing the message directly to you like you're sitting here in the kitchen with me? And so today we're going to talk about the story of Samson. This is a series that we're doing at our High on Jesus meetings. I want to be clear, y'all. This is not just for people that struggle with substance use disorder. This is for everyone. Everyone needs to hear this stuff. There's so much that we can get out of these Bible stories. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it. You know, some people out there may not know the story of Samson. Just a real quick overview. The book of Judges is stories of Israel, right? God's people. God takes them to a good place. There's some amazing things that happen in their life, but then when everything gets going good, it seems like they kind of take their eyes off of God. They start doing things that they shouldn't. They start kind of regressing, and eventually they get taken over by another country that oppresses them, takes all their resources, and they go through a really rough time. And then they cry out to God again for help, and God sends someone. God sends a judge, a leader, to help free them from their situation that they're in. And then life gets good again, and they pull back from God, so on and so forth. Kind of like a lot of us do in our actual lives as well. But what's interesting about the story of Samson is that we know the story of Samson and Delilah. Basically, God gave Samson superhuman strength. He used it to defeat the Philistines. That was the country that was taking them over at that time. There's eventually a part where she tries to ask him, Samson, what's the key to your strength? What's the key to your strength? And he lies a few times, and guys try to overtake him, and he wound up beating them, but eventually he gives in and tells her the source of my strength comes from my hair can never be shaved. And so Delilah uses that information, shaves his hair, right? He gets overtaken, and we'll go more into the story as the series progresses. Just wanted to give you a quick overview of it. Where we're kind of joining up first is there's actually an angel that visits Samson's mom and dad and gives them some specific instructions. So I'm going to read to you Judges 13 verses 4 through 5 out of the NIV. Says, now see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you do not eat anything unclean. This is the angel of the Lord speaking to Samson's mom. You will become pregnant and have a son whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazirite dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines. So it's interesting that this is specific instructions given to Samson's mom. So basically the moral of the story for us is don't drink and don't eat bad food. No, I'm just kidding. She was basically told, don't drink any wine, right? Don't eat anything unclean. Don't eat any of this type of bad food. And also make sure that your son never has his hair touched by a razor. That was very interesting to me in reading that. I see multiple times in the Bible specific instructions given by God to people, right? It's very direct. We've seen before, like, don't eat from those two trees over there, right? Told Adam and Eve, just, you can do pretty much whatever. Like, there's some rules I need you to follow as well, but make sure you don't eat from those two trees. He's directly speaking to the mom. Make sure you don't drink any alcohol and don't eat any bad food, right? Make sure that a razor never touches the head of your son. And so as silly as that may sound, what it spoke to me in this way is God wasn't telling them, don't get angry, don't curse, don't sleep around, don't steal, or all hell will break loose. No, it was a specific instruction in one area. Basically, don't let your son get a haircut, right? Don't let a razor touch your son's head, or else all hell is going to break loose in his life. And so it's very interesting to me. Number one in our message is, what has God been talking to you about or brought to your attention that there can be absolutely zero room for error in this area? As in, any mistake in this area could cause all hell to break loose in your life. That really spoke to me when I was reading this. We had a 21-day fast going on at our church currently, taking some time to get more into the word during that. And I'm back up in Proverbs. I recommend, you take some time each day to just maybe read a few verses or even half a chapter a day in Proverbs, some life-changing wisdom in there. Proverbs 16:32, I was reading, it said, "He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit better than he who takes a city." So in other words, it's saying that, someone that can control their anger, someone that is in control of what's going on with their emotions, with their actions, and that's better than someone who conquers an entire city. Guys, we have to start getting to know ourselves. We need to start feeling ourselves out, like what are some areas in our life that we know that we struggle with. There's something that I give into on a routine basis over and over again. Guys, no more masking all of our feelings, no more holding things inside. Like, we have to know ourselves well enough to know what areas do we need to guard against, like our lives depend on it. Now, for anyone that struggles in the substance use disorder area, like, I'm gonna tell you that one thing is drugs and alcohol. Like, we gotta protect against that no matter what. We gotta be in the no matter what club that basically we need to know we can't mess up in this area, right? We got to go to meetings. We got to have a sponsor. We got to work the 12 steps. Whatever we got to do, we got to guard against this, because we know if we mess up in this area, all hell is going to break loose in our life once again. Maybe for someone out there, if you have a problem with cheating, right, then you got to know, like, man, this is an area that gets me every single time, and I got to protect against this like my life depends on it, right? No more looking at porn, no more looking at profiles on social media, girls half naked dancing around, whatever it is. I got to protect against this, because this is the one area that I struggle in, and I know that all hell could break loose in my life if I give in here, right? Maybe someone's I feel like God's been speaking to someone right now, even saying, you got to stop going around those people. Like, there's some people in your life that are not headed in the same direction you are, that aren't doing the same things that you're trying to do. And you keep going around these people, and man, it's taking you in a bad direction. You got to guard against this with everything that you have. Whatever it is, guys, we need to know ourselves well enough to know what God is telling us, that if maybe one or a few areas we got to guard against this, guys. And if we do, then it's going to go well for us. And if we don't, then we can't really be surprised when all hell starts breaking loose in our life. So if you're not already thinking of it, just watching this, I would invite you to get with God and say, God, what is the one area, or maybe one or two areas, God, that I really need to protect against, because I know this is a routine struggle for me over and over again. God giving us those specific instructions like he's done so many times in the word. All right, we're going to go to our next set of scriptures here. Judges 14:2-4 out of the NIV says this. Samson, he's saying to his father and his mother, I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife. It's kind of a little rude, Samson, and the way he's talking to his parents there. His father and mother replied, isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all of our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife? But Samson said to his father, get her for me. She's the right one for me. And his parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines, for at that time they were ruling over Israel. I want to make sure you understand what's going on here. So like we said before, the Philistines is the people that's overtaking the Israelites. In a sense, they're their sworn enemy at this present time. And now Samson is saying, hey, I found a wife and it's in the enemy camp. I want you to go get the people that are overtaking us. I'm going to take a wife from them. And they're kind of looking around like, what are you talking about, son? Like, why would you sleep with the enemy in a sense? Why wouldn't you get someone from our people here? It's almost probably, in a sense, you can look at it at the time, the worst move that he could possibly do. You ever done something and people told you in your life before you were going to do it, this is a bad idea? And then you went ahead and did it, and you came to quickly realize this is a bad idea? That's exactly what's going on here. But Isn't it funny in verse 4? Basically, when we decide to do whatever we want to do, that it can still be of the Lord. When we go decide that we're going to do it our way and we want to do things the way we want to do them, God already knows in advance what's going on here, and he can still turn it around and use it for something mighty, for something special. All right. Number 2. Isn't it funny that all those bad ideas and wrong moves that we made can still be used by God to make an impact in the lives of others? That it can still be used to develop us, and it can be weaved into a story of purpose. Let's analyze that for a minute. Like, did God make that happen? Did God say, okay, Samson's going to do this and Samson's going to do that? Absolutely not. Don't forget how God created the world back then until this current date. We all have free will choices, y'all. That's one of the best things I love about God, in all seriousness. He doesn't force anyone to do anything. If you want to come to him, awesome, that's what he wants. If you don't, you want to live your life however you want to live it, God says, be my guest, right? God does not mess with our free will choices. So God doesn't make this stuff happen, but here's what he does. He knows in advance, Samson's going to choose this, this, and this. That's all right. When he messes it up here, I'll go ahead and I'll start weaving it into the story of bringing it around and still be able to use him in a mighty way. I don't know about you, but that gives me comfort to know that all my mistakes and all my mess ups, that God can be like, okay, well, what's my will for his life? Well, I know he's not going to follow it today. I know he's going to mess up this and this, but that's all right. When he makes those mistakes, I'm going to start weaving it in over here. Like, I can teach him something through it. Right? And then I can maybe use it to teach him a lesson, and he's going to learn something. And now he can turn and pass that on to other people and help them when they're going through their same opportunity to make a bad free will choice. Guys, it doesn't matter our mistakes. It doesn't matter what occurred, right? God knows in advance the bad decisions, right? The wrong moves that we are going to make. And he can still weave that into a story of purpose. He can still use that to develop us, to help teach us things, and ultimately use this to still make an impact in the lives of other people. I think the world just equates bad news is bad. And now I'm going to go around depressed and upset. And some people let it affect them for weeks, months. And I definitely feel there's probably a vibe out there that like, oh, well, this just proves there isn't a God. Right? I don't have God in my life. If there was a God, all this bad stuff wouldn't happen. It's that classic, why does God let bad stuff happen to good people? Why would God let all these wars and all this stuff happen? And go back to the answer. It's real simple to me. Free will choice. So I want to just let you know, like, don't think that because I messed up this, and this up to this point that I can't be used by God. You still have a purpose, right? You still have meaning. God still wants to use you. He wants to take those mistakes and bad choices and weave them back into a story of purpose in your life. So don't think that you disqualified yourself from missing out on something that God has in store for you. So let's go to this next scripture here. Judges 14, 5 through the beginning of 6, this time out of the New King James Version. Says, so Samson goes down to Timnah with his father and mother. He comes to the vineyards of Timnah. Now to his surprise, a young lion came roaring against him, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he tore the lion apart as one would have torn apart a young goat, though he had nothing in his hand. Man, I love that. We understand what's going on here. So he decided that Samson, hey, I'm going to make probably a bad choice here, but I'm going to go take a wife from the enemy camp, right? He's going down, in a sense, to his wedding day, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, to his surprise, a young lion comes roaring out against him. Stay ready, y'all. That's our theme this year for 2025 in our meetings. We got to stay ready. It comes from 1 Peter 5:8. It says the enemy is prowling around like a roaring lion, just looking for someone to devour. Ironically, just like this story, we got to stay ready, y'all. And so I love that part. Now to his surprise. Like everything was going all right. Like you think it was a good day for him. He's going down to his wedding day to have a nice ceremony. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, something comes to try to take him out. And so I'm telling you, right, that there's going to come a time when we're going to be surprised. And there's going to come a time where something's going to come out of nowhere. Everything's going good. We thought like, man, it's a great day. And all of a sudden, something we were least expected jumps out to try to sabotage us, to try to stop us from moving forward and take us back to a place that we don't want to go to. Trust me, I had plenty of surprises in 2024. I even had a surprise or two in 2025 already, and it's just begun. Like this is real. This is happening, right? So I just encourage you to stay ready, right? Because you never know what the enemy's going to send our way. We never know what's going to come out of nowhere to attempt to take us out. And it's interesting about this, man, you don't know what you're made of until it's staring you right in the face. Right? Think about that. This is the first time that we see Samson's strength on display. And why is that? Because he never had an opportunity to show it up until this point. Right? You don't know what you are made of until it's staring you right in the face. He didn't have an opportunity to put this strength on display. He didn't have an opportunity yet for God to come in and help him out, right? Till he met this obstacle, this rough spot that he was going through in his life that came out of nowhere to try to get him. That thing that's staring us right in the face that possibly comes out of nowhere. This is the opportunity of a lifetime for the Spirit of the Lord to come mightily upon us to defeat or to get through whatever that situation is that just came out of nowhere. It seems like it's a struggle. For you, it's something that's sent to break you, right? Someone dying, a broken heart, a betrayal. Maybe you got fired, right? We have no money to pay the bills. Maybe for some of you sitting at home, it's the kids just got me at a breaking point. I feel you. Trust me. Right? My kids take me to that place all the time. And so it doesn't matter what the situation is, right? We don't know what we're made of until it's staring us right in the face. You got to start seeing yourself the way that God sees you. Freed us from the slavery of addiction. Bless us in so many ways.
Like it talks about in the Bible, that unity that's going to bring people to Christ.
When you pray those prayers from a place of desperation, no matter what is going on in my life, God has this covered.